If you're looking for a gaming monitor, it can be an absolute minefield, but thankfully I've reviewed over 300 of them. Indeed, here you'll find my top picks for 1080p, 1440p, 4K and the ultra-wide format. There's something no matter your overall budget, and I've even timestamped this video so you can skip to your relevant section. But before doing so, I would like to highlight that this video has not been sponsored by any of the manufacturers in question, but rather my own personal recommendations between the overall form factor, resolution, refresh rate, and of course the overall price point that you can find these monitors at. Speaking of which, over here, if you do want to find them on Amazon, the link's down in the description below, or by scanning the appropriate QR codes, which will pop out throughout this video, will take you to your localized Amazon store where I earn affiliate revenue. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So kicking things off in the 1080p category, we've got the AOC Gaming 24G4X, which sports a 23.8-inch IPS panel that goes up to 180Hz. It's pretty affordable, offers good response times, and support for HDR. Better still, it's got good color accuracy. In fact, this follows on from the similarly impressive 24G2 SPU and the older generation 24G2U, which are indeed its siblings, and will offer you slightly different refresh rates, but indeed can be considered if you can't find the G4X for any given reason. Do also consider the AOC Gaming 25G3ZM or the Philips 25M2N 3200W. These are by far my favorite 1080p monitors that I've reviewed to date, because they've got a 24.5-inch form factor, a 240Hz refresh rate, and a VA panel. Normally I wouldn't recommend a VA panel for hardcore gaming, but these are actually an exception. They have got minimal smearing, fantastically low input lag, great sort of response times, and also come in at an even more affordable price point, making them an absolute no-brainer. Now, should you consider yourself in the top 1% of gamers, then you might want to look at the Asus ROG Swift Pro PG248QP. This is the fastest LCD monitor that I've tested to date. Indeed, it's got a 24.1-inch form factor, an ETN panel, and a refresh rate that goes up to a ridiculous 540Hz. It's also got ULMB2 for the best sort of motion clarity. The only caveat, however, is that it requires a certain setup to get over 500Hz and is also ridiculously expensive for a 1080p monitor. So next up we get onto the 1440p category. And what better way to kick things off than the AOC Q24G2A, which sports a 23.8-inch 165Hz IPS panel. Yes, indeed, that smaller form factor and that higher refresh rate makes it pretty novel, and therefore gives you higher pixel density and better sort of muscle memory if you're playing more competitive shooters. Although it is worth considering that if you want a higher refresh rate, do look into the AOC Q25G4SR, which has got that 24.5-inch form factor, an IPS panel, and a refresh rate of 300Hz. Yes, indeed, you'll get better motion clarity with this monitor, all while being a little bit more expensive than its older sibling. Now going back to the norm, and by that I mean a 27-inch monitor, you've got the HP Omen 27Q. It's got a 165Hz refresh rate and an IPS panel. It's actually pretty affordable and performs pretty well across the board. And it's certainly useful for those people that do not want that higher refresh rate or indeed need it. You also would like to consider the AOC Q27G2S, which has got a near identical panel, so therefore make sure to look out for the prices between these two monitors and pick whichever you find cheapest. Now, should you want a larger monitor, consider the iiyama GB3271QSU-B1. Indeed, it's a bit of a mouthful, but this 31.5-inch form factor monitor with its IPS panel and 165Hz refresh rate actually is a great pick if you want that larger monitor. It will sacrifice the overall pixel density at 1440p, but it's still great for watching movies, productivity, or indeed gaming. Now, putting IPS monitors to a side for a few minutes, we have to talk about the Xiaomi G Pro 27i. As the name might suggest, it's got a 27-inch form factor, a 180Hz refresh rate, and a VA panel. However, what really sets itself aside from its competitors is that it's got that mini LED structure with a whopping 1152 local dimming zones, therefore giving you far superior contrast ratios and also phenomenal HDR. This is certainly something that you might want to consider, especially given the fact that it's actually pretty affordable. If, however, you can't find it or want to save yourself a little bit of money, you might want to look at the AOC Q27G3X instead. It's got that 27-inch form factor, 180Hz refresh rate and that VA panel. However, where it differs from the Xiaomi is that it's got 336 local dimming zones instead, so therefore won't give you as superior experience as the Xiaomi does. Now, if you consider yourself a bit more of a hardcore gamer but still want that fantastic contrast ratio due to a VA panel, then definitely consider the trusty Samsung Odyssey G7, which has actually been around for quite numerous years. But yet, despite that fact, it's still one of my go-to recommendations. It's available in a 27 and 32-inch form factor. Indeed, it has got stunning HDR reproduction and has got that refresh rate of 240Hz, providing you better fluidity and motion clarity. Now, should you want to maintain that higher refresh rate but want an IPS panel instead, then you might want to consider the AOC AG274QG. In fact, this is among a finite number of monitors that have got a native G-Sync module built in, therefore giving you the full VRR range. This will also give you pretty good HDR reproduction. However, I did find that its IPS panel did give me a headache while using it, which could have been because I was sent the Chinese version instead of the European model. Nonetheless, it's still a worthwhile recommendation, and therefore it's certainly something that you might want to consider. Now, on the other hand, for a multitude of years, I owned the AOC AG274QS. In fact, it was my favorite 1440p monitor of all time. And indeed over here, it's because it has an ultra-high refresh rate of 300Hz, and it sacrifices the native G-Sync module of its sibling, therefore making it a perfect companion for those people that want a very fluid experience, all while getting a really good color accuracy and HDR reproduction. The only caveat, however, is that it's actually pretty expensive, especially with OLED prices dropping significantly in recent years. Which coincidentally brings me on to our first one. The AOC AG276QZD2 sports a flat 26.5-inch 240Hz QD-OLED panel, and for its specs it's actually quite affordable and a perfect entry to OLED technology. It's ultra responsive, offers good motion clarity and HDR reproduction, which is in part thanks to its phenomenal contrast ratio. Now, if you're going to be consuming media or gaming and don't have a bright sunlit room, then the Asus ROG Strix OLED XG27AQDMG might be for you, as its WOLED panel is glossy, meaning you get an even better image reproduction at the expense of some potential image glare. Now, it is worth considering, however, that you have got the fringing effect, which affects every single OLED out there, but in this WOLED, it seems to be a little bit more noticeable, and therefore when it comes to text legibility, it's not exactly the best. Certainly won't impact you when it comes to gaming, but just some food for thought. Equally, another WOLED monitor is the AOC AG276QZD, not to be confused with the D2 that I just mentioned before, which has got a QD-OLED panel. Now, the ultimate monitor for me, and the one that I would highly recommend to everyone, is the Philips Evnia 27M2N8500, which I now use as a daily driver. That's because it has got a 27-inch 360Hz QD-OLED panel. That ultra-high refresh rate, paired up with OLED panel technology, means it's a match made in heaven for hardcore competitive gamers. Its HDR reproduction is stellar, and color accuracy is on point too. And to add the cherry on top, it's got Philips AmbiGlow, which effectively utilizes the RGB lights that are positioned at the back of the monitor and projects them onto a nearby wall, therefore giving you some extra bit of immersion should you wish to use it. A worthy alternative to the Philips is the MSI MPG271QRX, which offers near identical specifications, however it's often found a little bit pricier than the Philips and doesn't offer the Philips AmbiGlow effect either. Moving on, we get on to 4K monitors, and a great way to start things off is actually with the MSI 27UR-FW, as this monitor is surprisingly affordable despite its killer specs. It has a 27-inch form factor and a flat IPS panel with a refresh rate of 160Hz, and even does fabled HDMI 2.1 ports, making it a great companion for those who game on consoles too. As an alternative, you've got the AOC Gaming U27G3X, which offers a similar experience and slightly better response times, albeit being slightly pricier. So before we get onto a flurry of 4K OLEDs, we have to talk about the Philips Evnia 32M2N6800M, as this thing is among one of the best 4K LCD monitors around, and I actually labeled it to be the OLED killer. That's because it has a 31.5-inch form factor, a 144Hz refresh rate, and more importantly, an IPS mini LED structure with a whopping 1,152 local dimming zones, making it a great pick for casual gamers and for those who want a lifelike HDR reproduction without any of the negative traits of OLED panels. Speaking of which, one thing that puts people off OLEDs other than the overall TLC that they require is the overall asking price. But the AOC AG2 AG276QG redefines the odds by coming in at an affordable price point given its overall specs. It's got a 31.5-inch form factor, 165Hz refresh rate, and a QD-OLED panel, all of which combine to make it a worthwhile consideration if you want to dabble with a 4K OLED. Should you have a little bit of extra disposable income and want better motion clarity, you might want to consider the Philips Evnia 32M2N8900. This monitor offers the similar specs as the AOC that I've just mentioned, but has got a refresh rate of 240Hz, making it my favorite 4K monitor that you can currently buy. It also benefits from Philips' Ambiglow technology, which is always a plus point. Of course, over here, if you're going to be able to output 4K at 240Hz consistently, is another talking point altogether. Now, if you want a 4K OLED monitor but don't want that larger form factor, then there's something still for you. Both the AOC AG276QZD and the MSI MPG 272URX offer a 26.5-inch 240Hz QD-OLED panel that operates at 4K. Therefore giving you class-leading pixel density. They're ultra-responsive with excellent HDR reproduction and good color accuracy. The AOC is often found a little bit cheaper than the MSI, but prices fluctuate, so therefore check out which one comes out cheaper in your local market. On the other end of the scale, you've got the pretty large Philips Evnia 42M2N8900. As its model name might suggest, it has a whopping 41.54-inch form factor, indeed almost like a TV. If you can fit this in your setup or your living room, you'll find that its 138Hz refresh rate is ideal for most types of games, and its HDR reproduction is also pretty good too. Past 4K monitors, we get on to the ultra-wide form factor. Now all of these will come with a resolution of 1440p, making it the sweet spot for gamers who want that extra bit of immersion. Now the AOC Gaming CU34G2XP offers a great proposition with its 34-inch curved 180Hz VA panel. It's ridiculously fast and affordable. Now an alternative is the HP Omen 34C, which goes up to a refresh rate of 165Hz. The AOC is what I would personally go for, especially as it offers you better bang for your buck. Should you have a little bit more money, definitely consider the AOC Gaming CU24G4Z, as it has a higher refresh rate that goes up to 240Hz, meaning you'll get even better motion clarity and response times from its 34-inch curved VA panel. It's a great pick for avid gamers, and with minimal smearing and overshoot, it's perfect for fast-paced shooters, racing games, and sims. And here comes my favorite ultrawide monitor, especially for its price. The Philips Evnia 34M2C8600 has got a curved 34-inch 175Hz QD-OLED panel. Aside from its fantastic image quality and class-leading response times, it boasts an impressive HDR reproduction and offers great color accuracy too. It's also packed with features such as Philips Ambiglow, a USB hub, and a built-in KVM switch, making it ideal for productivity. Now, if you want a cheaper alternative, look into the near identical but slightly stripped back variants in the form of the Philips Evnia 34M2C6500 and the AOC AG2 AG274QG. Now, should you want an ultrawide monitor that does it all and you've got a better budget, consider the Porsche design AOC AG2 PD34. Indeed, this sleek and stylish monitor has been designed by the Porsche design team, while its panel offers a sumptuous 34-inch curved 240Hz 1440p QD-OLED panel that's ultra-responsive, fluid, and provides excellent HDR reproduction. Now if you want an even larger monitor and I've got the space to accommodate it, then believe it or not, there's a 49-inch curved 240Hz QD-OLED monitor. It's called the Philips Evnia 49 M2C 8900, and it's like having two fully fledged 27-inch monitors sat side by side. It's absolutely perfect for any sort of gaming needs, and more specifically sim gaming, and is also fantastic for multitasking. Speaking of which, there are monitors nowadays that natively output 2 resolution and refresh rates. I know it's a little bit of witchcraft, but it's plausible at the press of a button. Both the AOC U27G4SR and the Philips Evnia 27M2N 3800A offer a flat 27-inch IPS panel that output both 4K at 160Hz and 1080p at 320Hz. You can even output 1440p at 160Hz without any issues. Now, despite both of them not quite providing the same sort of motion clarity as a native 320Hz Full HD monitor, their capabilities and ridiculously cheap price point make them a worthwhile consideration if you want a jack of all trades but master of none monitor. With that said, the far more expensive Asus ROG Swift OLED PG32U CDP provides a phenomenal gaming performance at both 4K 240Hz and 1080p at 480Hz. Indeed, its 31.5-inch WOLED panel is ultra capable and responsive. And there's even scaling options available where you can simulate 24.5-inch and 27-inch form factors, meaning that 1080p resolution, you can still retain that muscle memory and that competitive edge. So there we have it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this roundup of the best gaming monitors. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and of course if this video has helped you, definitely do consider dropping a like, subscribing and hitting that bell notification, all of which would be greatly appreciated. As such, I've been Totally Dubbed, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.